burn the boats. Give yourself one option in life to make it or go under. The problem with too many of you guys is you give yourself too many options. You give yourself too much backup in the event that you fail. In the event that you don't succeed, you can always do this or you can always do that. And you know what? You got to cut it all off and you've got to burn the boats. Okay? You've got to place yourself in a state of tremendous fear that if you don't make it, your life is over, right? When I first started my online business, I burned the boat. I left my corporate job, my safe corporate job, where I was making 6 figures per year. I was driving a top-down Mercedes. I had a beautiful girlfriend, right? I left it all to start an online business because I knew that if I stayed, okay, not only at my job, if I stayed in my job, if I stayed with that chick, there's no way I would have built the business that I did. Okay, there's no way I would have achieved the success that I did. There's no way I would have put the energy, effort, and attention into making my business succeed the way that I did if I was too comfortable. If I still had that corporate paycheck coming in, if I still had that beautiful girl to come home to, I knew that, you know what? I'm not going to put my all into this. And it's never going to become what I know it could become and what it did become. Right? And that was just an example of me burning the boats. Right? I literally burned the boats. And it was pretty scary, man. I went through a rough time where literally all the money I made in corporate America just disappeared. You know, well, it didn't disappear. I spent it on launching a number of online businesses that I thought were going to be successful, and they ended up all failing, right? I had about, I want to say 11 or 12 online business failures before hitting upon my pickup and dating business, which was the 13th, which succeeded, right? And it was something that I had always done anyway. It just wasn't something that I really thought I could use to replace like my corporate income that I could actually make a living doing full time. Right? But I was able to accomplish that just because I had no other choice. I gave myself no other choice. It was like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to go under, right? I've got to make it or go under. I've got to find a way to make this succeed. And I did it basically in an era where, pickup was dying. People weren't learning it anymore and people didn't have interest in it anymore, even though, all the techniques work to this very day. I'll stand by it until I'm dead. All the techniques work just as much as they did before, even if not better than they did before. Because now we have smartphones and whatnot. The techniques work even better. So it was an example of me burning the boats, which, funny enough, I'm in San Francisco right now, and the Fortune 100 I worked for was like right over that way. It was like, it's one block over. So this used to be my neighborhood, and I used to, when I used to go for lunch, I used to go over here. We're in the Embarcadero right now, over here by this clock tower. I used to go for lunch right over there. And I remember my last year working in corporate America, my head wasn't even there anymore. Like, I would literally come to my sales meetings. We had Monday morning sales meetings at 7 a.m. And I would bring a little notepad and I would sit in the back, which was weird because I was used to sitting in the front, and my bosses would always see me in the front. All of a sudden I was all the way in the back so I could kind of hide and take notes. And I started writing out and kind of mapping out the business that I wanted to create. I remember spending the entire last year that I was working for this corporation doing that. And I'm like, man, it's been a year now and I still haven't taken any action. And I was like, why? And the problem was I was too comfortable. I was still getting that corporate paycheck. I was still going home to this beautiful girl. And, it was at that time where I realized, I'm like, I just have to stop this. I have to end my career in the corporate world. And I just have to dive head first, both feet in, and try to build something online. Try to make it or go under, right? And give myself no other choice. And I did just that. And like I said, there was a period of time there, right, was a good couple of years where I was just living off of fumes financially. I mean, I had no money, and I was starting to freak out. I was starting to panic, and to the point where I got called by a recruiter, right? I got a call by a recruiter right as I was down to my last $500. I had a recruiter call me out of the blue. It was almost like a test from the universe. I had a recruiter call me out of the blue, a good recruiter, and said, hey, I just happened to come across your resume, and are you in the market for a job? Are you still working, for the Fortune 100? And I said, no, I left them a few years ago. And he says, well, you ever hear of Adobe software? And I'm like, yeah, I know Adobe software. I'm using the software right now. And he was like, well, I'm going to send you over there for an interview. And I remember I went to, I went to like 2 or 3 of the interviews because I started getting desperate and I needed money. And I'm like, you know what? Hey, I'll just work here for, like 6 months to a year. I'll put a bunch of money in my pocket. Then I'll get back to the business. And it literally came down to one of the last interviews where they were about to make me an offer and hire me and all this. I mean, we already talked about salary, and it was so tempting. And I remember I went to the interview, like one of the last ones, and I didn't go in. I sat in my car and I didn't go in because it was kind of like a defining moment. And I really believe that if I went into that interview, I would have taken the job, and I probably wouldn't even be teaching right now. Like pickup dating, I probably wouldn't even have these YouTube channels. But I made the decision as I sat in the parking lot that I was going to go forward and I wasn't going to take the job. And I literally called the guy as I was sitting in the parking lot, and I told him I'm not coming to the interview. And he was like, really? And he was like, but you're so close to getting the job. I'm like, yeah. And he was like, is it a money thing? And he thought I was trying to hold out for more money. And I said, it's a money thing, but not like job wise. I said, I couldn't explain it, but I said, yeah, I'm not going to come. I'm sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. And I remember getting off the phone, and I just didn't know what to feel. I was like, either I'm really stupid for this decision, or it's going to prove that I'm really brilliant, and ended up being that I'm brilliant. Right? I didn't go to the interview. I went home and I continued building my business, and fast forward a few years later, here I am, very successful, got a successful online business. I basically went from literally broke 7 years ago to being in the top 1% of income earners in the United States, right? I'm literally in the top 1%. It's really weird to be there too. Never would have got there with my corporate job, right? But yeah, I'm in the top 1%. It's so weird. And the funny thing is, like, when I started my business, I was already in my early 40s. So to go from broke to the top 1% in my 40s is just unheard of, right? People just don't do that. I mean, usually people give up on life in their 30s. But to be in your 40s and actually pull that shit off is amazing, right? So I credit that to burning the boats, because I had no other options. I had no other choice, right? I had to succeed or I was going to go under, right? I was already going under, right? I was already under, technically, right? But I was able to pull myself out, and I was able to make the business work because I left myself no other choice, right? There was no other choice. I was getting hungry every single day, and I couldn't spend money on food. I had to eat as little as possible. I had to sleep as little as possible, because the more I slept, the less time I had to work on my business. So, I mean, just night and day, I hammered away. And, I really isolated myself from my friends during that time and my family. And, I went complete monk mode. And it was funny, around the time where I left my corporate job, I mean, my girlfriend pretty much took off, and she tried to come back later, but I didn't want her back because I was just too focused on my business. I just didn't want her back, and I knew even at that time, like, maybe this is a blessing in disguise, so I could really just concentrate completely on this business, which I did. And I made it work. And now it's successful. I never have to work again. Like, I never have to go back to a job ever again. It's amazing. And that's just with business. I mean, I've done other things, like as far as my health goes. I remember at one point in my life, I was just becoming a fat piece of shit, right? I was just becoming fat, gross, whacked looking. I was like, okay, I'm just going to work out more. So I would work out more, but then I was working out harder. I was starting to see a little bit of results. Not a whole lot. I was starting to see a little bit, but I was working out like 4 or 5 times per week, and then I was, eating clean like 5 days out of the week. But then on the weekends, I would binge, right? You hear like a lot of people who are trying to get into better shape. They do shit like that, right? Where they'll they'll eat clean 4 to 5 days of the week. And then on the weekends, they'll kind of give themselves a break to binge and kind of eat some Taco Bell and some bad food. Whereas I was not seeing enough progress doing that, right? My progress was moving very, very slow. So what I decided to do was burn the boats, right? I burned the boats. I went on a perfection challenge. What is a perfection challenge? Perfection challenge is where you eat clean 7 days a week. You don't binge whatsoever. You go to the gym as you normally do. You don't cheat. You don't cut. You go to the gym, you do your workouts, and you don't binge. You don't binge at all. That's a perfection challenge. And you know what? I got into kick-ass shape in probably less than 6 weeks. Probably like within a month, I was to the weight I wanted to be at, right? Here I was thinking it was going to take 6 months to a year. I got there in a month because I went on a perfection challenge. No more cheating, no more binge eating, no more little breaks from the diet. I just went on a complete perfection challenge. And thanks to that perfection challenge, actually, it changed my entire habit as far as eating goes, where I eat clean like 5-6 days per week without even thinking about it. It doesn't even take work for me anymore. And I actually enjoy eating clean, and I crave like good food and healthy food. I don't crave carbs anymore. I don't crave like French fries, onion rings, potato chips. I just don't crave that shit anymore. It's weird. I grew up eating that stuff. I just don't crave it anymore. And a lot of it's due to burning the boats and going on this perfection challenge, right? So that's another area outside of business where it came to my health that I burned the boats, and I went on a challenge where I just didn't give myself any breaks to eat bad food, right? So you're gonna have to do the same in your own life if you really, really want to achieve the result that you're looking for, and you're looking to do like big things in your life. You can't give yourself all these options in case you fail, right? You have to give yourself one option. Make it or go under, okay? Make it or go under. You have to burn the boats, okay? You got to burn the boats. And as far as my diet goes, when I went on that perfection challenge, I literally got rid of like all the sweets I had. I wasn't even eating sugar. I was eating like protein bars, and I mean, they weren't even like unhealthy bars. I mean, the things that I was binging on, I got rid of all that shit. When I went on my perfection challenge, I didn't eat any sweets, any garbage, any carbs. I just went as perfect as I could possibly go. And like I said, I got into phenomenal shape within a month. I mean, it didn't even take that long, right? So you're going to need to do the same if you're looking to accomplish anything in life, anything big, anything worthwhile. If you really want to do it and you really want to make things happen and you really want to see actual results, you don't want to get caught up in this cycle where you keep like struggling and failing and failing and failing, and then you get addicted to your struggle and you get addicted to failure. If you want to break that cycle, you got to burn the boats, right? That's the only way to make it. You give yourself one option to either make it or go under, period. Okay, period. A lot of phenomenal things can happen when you burn the boats. And the good thing is, too, is like it's a real challenge of your manhood to see what you're made of when you cut off all your options and you cut off all your backup and you burn all the boats. You really get to see what you're made of, how strong you are as a man. And there are times where I thought I was going to break. I was like, F this, dude. I'm about to like go insane. I'm like ready to crack. And I didn't. And I held it together. And I stayed focused, and here I am today, with a successful business. I'm in great shape. I've got a great life. I'm so thankful. When it comes to my animals, I could provide them with the best care, right? Like Cash, his back. You guys know about his back. I was able to get him the best neurologists, the best doctors, and these are things that I couldn't have done, just a few years earlier, had I not burned the boats. So a lot of good things can come out of it, but more importantly, you get to see how strong you are as a man. You get to see how alpha you really are, right? You get to see how stoic you are, and how resilient you are, and just how tough you are. Like all those failures, just getting back up and trying again, failing, getting back up and trying again. You know how many times I failed, man? I failed so many times, it's insane. I just failed so many times, it's crazy. But you know what? I just kept getting back up. I just kept getting back up and going, okay, what can I do better? how can I fix this? How can I make it work? You know, and then finally got to the point where I made it work, you know, and you can get there too. But you ain't gonna get there if you give yourself a lifeboat to jump to in case things start to go south. You know, you have to just give yourself that one option. And you have to place yourself on what they call death ground. I think Robert Greene calls it death ground, where, you know, you have to feel like if you don't fight to stay alive, you know, you're gonna die, right? So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up here. So until next time, this is Matt Cross from Alpha Male Secrets. Don't forget to smash that like button below. Also, hit that notification bell so that you're notified whenever I release a brand new coaching video here on YouTube. More importantly, guys, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Really helps me out a ton when you guys subscribe, okay? Because YouTube is constantly changing their algorithm and they're constantly unsubscribing people from channels like mine in particular, because they don't like what I'm teaching you guys. They don't like that I'm teaching you guys how to be better men, right? Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and also share my coaching videos with your buddies and like-minded friends and like-minded coworkers and family members, so we could really start creating a movement here and getting more guys on board and getting more guys red-pilled and unplugging more guys from the blue pill matrix.